This is Mile High.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right,
it is not. It is a receiver of thought.
because love is my first technique.
It's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, coming to you from a altitude of 5,280 feet, which reminds me to make sure you put in your calendar Mile High 2018, August 16th to 19th. Get your seats reserved, www.milehighchiro.org. Do it before December 31st. Why would you want to, rise up and raise your fees? Do it ahead of time. And if you are enjoying this podcast and the other podcasts that we do, you do not want to miss one. Make sure you subscribe, whether you tune into this on iTunes, Facebook, Stitcher, YouTube, whatever it is. These episodes are being downloaded worldwide. Be part of the worldwide chiropractic movement emanating from the center of the United States at the Mile High altitude. Today's guest is a dear friend and person who has been doing great things in chiropractic for years. Dr. David Serio is a graduate of Sherman College and is lighting up South America with TIC. Welcome to the Mile High Podcast, Dr. David Serio.
Daniel, it's an honor. And I just want to start by saying thank you for all you do. I've known you since school. We lived together. You've been an inspiration since Sherman. So thank you for all you do.
You're welcome, and I'm grateful to serve, and I'm grateful to get this time with you to get to connect more. I know you're doing great things down in South America, so let's talk about that. First of all, let's let people get to know you, the real you. Like, how did you find your way into chiropractic?
Great question, Daniel. So I grew up in New Jersey, and I played high school football and other sports, and all my friends used to say, Dave, you've got to go see our chiropractor. But I would ask them, well, why do I need to go? And they're like, it's amazing for pain. I feel great. And I'm like, well, I don't have any pain. So they're like, oh, okay. So, I just never saw the need because that's what I thought it was. And I was a semi-professional skier, Daniel, in high school and college. And I didn't ski for a while after college. And I went for a weekend, went all out, and I basically couldn't move. So I said, this is the time I need to see a chiropractor. Great. So I went to a chiropractor and didn't really explain much. He just kind of put a lot of fear into me that if I didn't go 3 times a day for 3 months, I wasn't going to walk again. And he did his adjustments, and I left. And I was living in New York City at the time, Daniel. And I remember I walked outside. It was a beautiful day. I was right near the Flatiron Building. And I had to stop. And I had the same pain I walked in with, but something moved inside of me that I felt this connection to everything. I mean, I just sat there for hours, watched everyone, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to do this the rest of my life. And within a few weeks, he actually ended up losing his license for insurance fraud. But within a few weeks, I had met 3 other chiropractors. I never met a chiro in my life. My friend's like, hey, Dave, we got a party tonight, and my friend happens to be a chiro. He's coming out with us. So long story short, that's how I got into it.
That's so funny. So now the next thing to ask is what transpired, the short version, to get from the journey of that to being the author of the new smash hit, 33, that's right there, because there's a big jump in between from that to becoming an author and having multiple offices in South America. So let's share a little bit of some highlights of that journey.
Okay, so I started at Life College and had the great pleasure to know Dr. Sid, and long story short, I ended up transferring to Sherman. That's where I met you. I remember the first day I went to Sherman, everyone's like, you already got a place to live, you're coming here. And I was like, awesome, I'm going to Sherman. So, we were at a time in Sherman where, it was just phenomenal. We had Donnie coming constantly, Arno, Joe D'Onofrio, Reggie, Tom Gilardi was the president. So from day one, Daniel, I just got inspired and said, okay, this is so much bigger than myself. This is my purpose, and I have to serve this purpose beyond myself. And long story short, I ended up in South America. It wasn't that I was crazy about it here. I just really said, I want to see what this is like where it doesn't really exist, where I don't even speak the language. What you know, it was kind of an adventure, and it turned into I got married, had a child, and decided to stay. And so that's kind of a long story short. My life brought me in a different direction from full-time practice to a series of events where I ended up opening offices, and thank God I'm able to go back a couple days a week now, and you know, run multiple practices. And my wife always said, Dave, you have to write a book. And my life brought it to where I had some extra time to do that, and she gave me the idea for the book, actually. You know, she's like, the principles are amazing. And I just thought, you know, why don't I get a bunch of people together from a wide variety of our profession from all over the world to write about the principles and make it practical. You know, so a lot of times, Daniel, I find that people say the philosophy is great and everything, but in practice it doesn't apply. No, it's completely applicable. The practice is a complete reflection of the philosophy.
Absolutely. It has to be. And that's one of the keys to successful practice, which is what people get from that book. So let's talk about that a second. What do you think are some of the keys for a successful practice?
Okay, so Daniel, first thing I think that's key is that the 33 principles should be applied to our lives. You know, there's principles for success, there are principles for practice. So the first thing I think is, in order to have a successful practice, you need to have a successful mindset, period. Success starts in the consciousness. So the first thing is to really get the consciousness of the principles and how they apply to your life, to practice, and success principles. You know, like, go out and get success principles. It starts in the consciousness first. What I know is this, Daniel. Yourself, for example. Daniel Knowles would be successful at having a restaurant, if that's which is perfect. You know? And that's the truth. It goes beyond the chiropractic. You know, a successful person, you're not going to get a failure in chiropractic and say, "Whoa, this guy's going to be a success in something else," or "She's going to be success in something else." If you're really serving your purpose and your successful mindset, it will translate into everything.
Absolutely. And that's very true. And you have seen people, and since you work with other doctors, and I'm sure you've seen some of them be a flying success in your system, and I'm sure you've seen people be a flying failure. So in the same system. So what have you seen in chiropractors and associates? Because whether they're associate or they're running their own office, they're the same person, right? So in either, what have you seen have been the characteristics of the ones that were more successful?
Okay, the first thing, Daniel, that I want to say is that I honestly think there are a lot of people in chiropractic that really it's not their first purpose.
Right.
You know, and so the bottom line, Daniel, you know, I saw something from Tony Robbins the other day, and he said, there's no lazy people. It's like, if you have a gun to your head, man, you're not going to be lazy. You're going to run. You know, so if chiropractic is not really your true purpose, I think you have to be honest with yourself and say, you know, I made the wrong career choice. I just had a guy with me here, and after a month and a half, I said, dude, I think you made the wrong career choice. And he's like, I'm figuring that out. You know, I don't want to be a chiropractor. So I think it starts from that, Daniel, first. If this is really your true purpose, you know, someone's not going to have to call you up to get you out of bed in the morning.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right.
Daniel, for me, you're one of the hardest working guys in chiropractic, and it's not work. You know that. Of course, you know the hours and stuff, but you have fun doing it. You love what you do, right? So
yeah, you never think something else, right? So it's your life, it's what you're doing, and my family is a huge priority, and love my family, and you know, chiropractic is a calling, and it's your purpose, and people have that in other things in their life too, right? So, but when it comes down to it, in practice, people are either all in or they're not. You know, you have to be all in.
Exactly, Daniel. And you just said something that I think is key about your family, because I know your wife and stuff. But when I got married a little bit later, when I was 40, and I didn't get married until I met a woman that was like, I'm on board with you. I know this is your life's purpose, and I get that. It would be very hard to be married to someone that was like, you can't go to that seminar, or no, you know what I mean? And I think that's really important, Daniel. And that's another point I'm seeing in Kairos. I've been helping some that say, my partner doesn't let me go all in.
Yeah.
And so they're constantly being torn between those worlds.
Absolutely. I see that. You see that at times. I've seen that. So now then, there's a thing. You practice overseas. I don't know when you left the U.S. If you ever practiced in the I don't know any of that history. I don't remember it. I do remember that you learned everything about chiropractic from me. But besides that, what's it like practicing overseas?
Okay, Daniel, I took all the boards, I crushed all the boards, and then I decided, you know what? If I get a license, and the first big challenge I have, I'm going to run back to the U.S. So I said, okay, I passed all the boards, I'm going to hold off on the license right now. So I didn't practice in the U.S. I actually waited for a person that came with me. For about 6 months, I worked in a restaurant and saved money, and then I came directly to Argentina, so I never actually practiced in the U.S. I do have all my boards, and I just applied for my first license last year in South Carolina. But so I don't know what it's like to practice in the U.S., honestly.
So what's it like to practice overseas?
Well, Argentina is amazing because right now it's illegal, meaning it's not legal, it's not illegal. So there's a lot of freedom on, what we can do, what we can say. There's no restrictions to anything. So it's a very free way to practice. I think there's a big myth that people think you're going to go overseas and you're an American chiropractic, people are going to come running. That happens when it's free and when it's a mission trip. It does not, right? It doesn't happen when you open a practice and you're charging fees, you have to pay taxes. You have to live the life of the local people. I actually think, Daniel, in some ways it may be harder because the consciousness, at least in South America, still is crisis from the government to the way they run their lives. Most people in South America go to the dentist one time a year, if that. So for me, it's an open book because we have the possibility to teach them something else about life. Let's do things on a regular basis. Chiropractic. It's like most people that come to us never heard the word before, which is beautiful. I think that's a great thing.
Because they don't have a definition that they've latched onto.
Exactly.
Right.
Or if they do, it's very simple. Like, well, look, that's chiropractic in South America, but that's not true chiropractic. And so it's easy to get around that too, the myth.
Right. Right. Because you can define it for that culture, which is, unfortunately we've messed that up somewhat in the U.S. Right. So it's good to do that elsewhere, and not that you're changing the definition, but define it to the way it's meant to have been defined. What are some of the joys of being able to practice overseas?
Well, for one, it's probably easier to do all cash. I don't even take credit cards. It's 100% cash fee. So that's great. In that level, I find that's joyful and freedom. It's really changed my whole outlook on life. Your whole nerve system is rewired. And I got my ass kicked here for like 10 years, man. Just from not speaking the language to being robbed on from lawyers. And I mean, dude, it crushed me for years. But it's been very opening in terms of life evolution, evolving as a human being. I'm not going to lie and say I don't miss things about the United States. Of course I do. But it definitely helps having a wife from here, raising my daughter here in the culture and stuff like that.
Excellent. Excellent. And what are some of now with that? So getting a different life experience, practicing overseas, seeing people, talking about chiropractic success. With your book, with the book 33, what are some of your favorite things, or what that you want people to get out of it?
Okay, so I fell in love with the 33 principles. That thank God at Sherman we had an amazing education in the 33 principles, and I had Simon Senson sitting next to me all through Sherman, who's one of my heroes, and we fell in love with the principles. I mean, we'd sit there and not pay attention to diagnosis class, and the teachers be yelling at us. We'd be talking about the principles, and so I fell in love with them from day one. And I just feel like, honestly, Daniel, they're underutilized. I mean, look at what's going on in the States with the healthcare crisis and all the problems economically with what healthcare doesn't. I imagine if they incorporated the principles into their thinking, and so I just think they're underutilized. I had one of my good friends here who was the Minister of Economy who read Stevenson's textbooks, and he's like, dude, these principles I'm going to apply to economics in Argentina. And so I think they're really underutilized in terms of a global level and in our practices. So I kind of wanted to, first point with the book was I wanted to bring back the sexiness of the principles and make them practical. The second point of the book was I don't think there's a really good guide to train our staffs yet, in terms of the philosophy. So I wanted people to use it as a guide for their staff. And also present really practical insights in between the principles. Quotes, insights, not just from me, from different authors. And the third thing, Daniel, I wanted the book to be able to be crossed between chiros, other healthcare professionals, and the public. And number 4, I really wanted to try to bridge some gaps between different factions of our profession that are at least focused on the same mission.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about that. That's a very good point. And you and I have a very common chiropractic background because we're in school at the same time. So we kind of have been brought up in chiropractic in the same age, right? And we saw the profession then, and we see the profession now. I am very much aware that at the time when you and I were school, the way people butted heads over technique, right? Full spine, upper cervical, Gonstead network, you suck because you do XYZ, like all that stuff, right? You do that technique, that's not chiropractic, or you're not a real chiropractic. I mean, you hear that stuff being slung back and forth, right? And when you know the philosophy and what we learned from Tom Gilardi, right, it's our objective, right? If we've got the objective, and if our objective is that focus of subluxation and the adjustment, right, then we're looking at outcomes and we're seeing that that's actually happening in the person, right? So that we're actually doing what we say we're doing. Then we're chiropractors. And here's the thing. Though those discussions are important because they help us refine and they help us grow and they help us learn more, right? I personally think we are long past the time that serves us. Like because of the chiropractic political debacle that there is around the whole world, we're past the time where we have to be in our own camps and say, hey, you do upper cervical, I don't like you, or you do whatever it is, and that we have so much in common that the people that are, like you said, bridge a gap, right? That there's so many of us that are so close that if we decide we're not going to like each other, we're going to lose chiropractic even more than we already have. As compared to look, we have to be on the same team if we're going to move this forward. Here, I'll give you an example. Sean Dill, great guy, does a completely different approach than me. We, see things technique-wise different, but we, share so much mission-wise and vision-wise that I'm grateful to be on the same team. Do you know what I mean? We have to bridge those gaps versus say, oh, no, you're not a chiropractor unless you do knee chest, right? We have to have that move forward if we're going to work together because we're all in this together.
Daniel, okay, so I don't know where I saw this BJ quote, and I still can't find it, but I remember in one of his books it said, chiropractic is bigger than BJ Palmer. It's bigger than the Palmer School. It's bigger than the ICA. And I always try to live that. It was amazing. When I wrote this book, I asked a lot of people, and I actually had some people turn me down because of other people that were in the book and stuff like that. And I was like, this is bigger than our personalities. No one's perfect. People make mistakes. Yeah, there's people that that maybe I don't like, but I look at it, try to look at it objectively, and say, okay, is this a benefit for chiropractic?
Right.
And what do we have in common here? And a lot on Facebook, for example, I try to stay away from a lot of it because I see you post some great stuff and you try to get discussions going, and then it turns into people attacking each other, or and it's like we're not going to move forward unless we can have really intelligent conversations and discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best discussions I had in the last year was with a guy who's actually in the book, who practices completely different from me,
Mm-hmm.
but he loves the principles, and he just looks at them in a different way. And I have some great discussions. It gets me thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to. I'm all for okay, whatever. You want to practice a certain way, great, but just let us do what we want to do. The one thing that I really think needs to end in our profession is, even if the definition's broad, like forcing a model of practice on each other.
Right. Yeah.
Forcing the people that want to practice only subluxation care, which for me is the way I practice, forcing us to diagnose and forcing their model on us. Let us all just live in peace, do what we
Right.
And I think Brazil right now is one of the better models in that, where they're kind of like allowing each other to practice how they want. They have some respect for each other's models and stuff. And through discussion, you refine your model. But we're never going to get ahead with. And I was there, Daniel, at school.
Oh yeah.
The hate spray,
Yeah. We've seen it all. And here's the thing, all the people that are in this scope expansion world, they're not throwing mud at each other in that. They're all in on let's do this, right?
Yes, yeah.
Not.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're all, they're all in, of course.
And so.
And now my thing with them is this: let us do our thing.
Yeah.
I personally think at some point there has to be some type of split because it's going so far.
Well, and that's why I like that you said, like, hey, let's get some bridge building. Who are some of the great people in there?
Okay, in 33,
Yep.
we have Phil McMaster, President of New Zealand, Edwin Cordero, President Sherman. We have yourself in there, Arnold Bernier, Joe D'Onofrio.
Just say that again. Who was in there?
You.
All right. I know that's going to increase your sales more than any of the other names. That's why.
Oh, I'm going to put your picture on the next one. Liam Steve Judson, Lona Cook, Cindy Campanelli. There's 46 different authors in there, Daniel, and I didn't put bios for all the authors because I wanted to make it about the principles.
Right.
And when I asked people, I was very objective about looking at their submissions to make sure that, okay, this is somewhat of a practical explanation of what we're looking for. And what was interesting, Daniel? I hired a company from Amazon that was very professional, and the editors told me this book is very clear, and they explain chiropractic incredibly back to me.
Wow.
They for people that never been to a chiropractor, and they, now whether they got under care, I don't know, but they said there's a really common thread throughout the book that's very clear.
That's excellent. And that's great. I urge people to get it. We're going to have the link to it in the podcast. They can get it on Amazon. People know the Amazon link, but don't try to search while you're driving if you're listening to this. We don't want to cause any subluxations through the podcast. So, but you'll get the you'll have the link there for you in the blog notes that go along with the podcast notes. You want to get that there, and go grab the book. Go ahead.
I tell you something crazy,
Yeah,
Daniel. If you go on Amazon.com, the number one selling book under chiropractic is Healing Back Pain by an MD.
Mm.
And like 33's already become number 2, and I'm like, how is it possible that under chiropractic, the number 1 book is by an MD called Healing Back Pain, and right now my mission is to make this the number 1 bestseller because I think it's really valuable for people. I've been getting great feedback, and after I'm once the costs are covered, I'm going to start donating part of the profit back into chiropractic.
Excellent.
Okay,
And
it's sort of,
that's what we all need to do.
I really respect you for what you do with the Mile High, and the book's already being translated in 2 other languages as we speak.
Awesome. So, in looking at chiropractors, looking at success in practice, what are the most common mistakes that chiropractors make?
Okay, so I believe that they think, number 1, chiropractors think it's going to be easy. I open my shingle, people are going to come running to me because I'm great at what I do, or whatever. I see people all the time think it's going to be easy, and it's not. You got to work your butt off. You know that. You have to work your butt off in so many different aspects. You have to be great at what you do. Your technique, your philosophy, your communication, and you need to be good at business. You need to be good at marketing. It's very complete. And if you're not willing to do that, the first thing, Daniel, I think is I see with my own team, for example, they're getting to a place in 2-3 years where it took me 10 years.
There you go.
Now I know why people went and worked for Clarence Constant for years, or like if you pick a technique you want, go work for someone for a few years with that because you get so far ahead.
Yeah.
So far ahead. And I honestly think, Daniel, not everyone's an entrepreneur, man. And I realize now you have to be an entrepreneur to have your own practice.
Right.
You really do.
Right.
And I don't think everyone's cut out for that also. So I think that's the number 1 mistake of not knowing who you are, what your gifts are, what your skills are. Number 2, the biggest mistake I think is people give people what they want very quick instead of, this is what I have to offer. If you want this, I'm the best at it.
Right.
And they give in, so they don't have patience.
Right.
Number 2 mistake I would say is patience, so they fall into the trap of mixing everything with chiropractic.
Well, it's interesting. I had an experience where this is a few years back, or a decade ago. I had a VW Passat. Loved it. One of my favorite cars I've had, VW Passat. It was, and I had an import specialist. Actually, that was the name of the place, import specialist. And that's where I brought my car all the time. And they did a great job. And, it wasn't breaking down, just routine service. And if something broke down, I want there. I actually had 2 Passats because I loved it. So I bought another one. And then we had a problem with another car. And it was a Dodge Durango. So we had another car, and we go and bring in. I said, I was there. I said, I have a problem with the Durango. Can you work on it? And the guy looked at me and said, no, just imports. You got to specialize these days. We just do imports. And it was no big deal. It was just like, oh, yeah, no, it's not our focus, right? Our focus is this, and we're good at it, right?
Totally, Daniel. So I think that's the number 2 thing is that being unique and patience.
Yeah.
People don't have patience. I remember Joe D'Onofrio, Sr. He's from New Jersey. He's
the Godfather.
They call him the Godfather of chiropractic. Yeah, he's in the book as well. He told me when I was leaving Sherman. He said, David, 5 years. Give this 5 years. Work your ass off. 10 years, you'll be a rock star. And he was right. And I remember that from day 1. Have patience, have patience, have patience, and it grows and grew and grew and grew. To the point where people come.
Yep.
And you grow and grow and grow. This model of chiropractic, at least that I practice in subluxation center chiropractic, becomes stress-free if you give it patience.
Right. Yeah. And if you fuel it with the right purpose, the right vision, the right procedures, the right certainty, the right why, the right purpose, and you line up those things and you get those things in alignment, no pun intended, and then you got to practice based on that, right? On the 33 there. So,
Totally.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I really want to thank you for taking your time to be on our podcast, the Mile High Podcast. And I want to encourage people to go to Amazon, grab 33. I just got it yesterday, so I got to read like a chapter, and I'm looking forward, other than mine. I read my chapter, which I thought was outstanding. And then I read another one, which I didn't think was as good as mine, of course. But I look forward to reading the rest of them. I suggest people go to Amazon, grab it now. And also, I really recommend people rise up, get to Mile High. It's one of there's very few places, and I know you'll agree with this. David, how many places are there that are programs that are just fully 100% chiropractic? There's
very few.
There's very few.
few.
And even ones
Daniel,
yeah.
Yo, I want to say something because I haven't been to Mile High because basically the distance. It's like a day trip, and not an excuse, but I haven't made it there, and I will make it. But I have heard amazing feedback from it. Whenever anyone asks me, I say you have to go to Mile High. I mean, people I really respect in our profession, students and chiros, everyone just said you put on an amazing program there. And very clean and practical, and that's one of the things I heard. Like, it's a great energy, it's a great message, and it's practical.
And that's and I appreciate that, and I'm grateful for the feedback, and it's all coordinated. Like, that's what we're going for, And we want it to be.
Yeah.
There's very few things that's only chiropractic. So Mile High, and you can look around at things that say they're chiropractic programs, and then you go into the exhibitor room, and what do you see? You see everything other than chiropractic, right? So,
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with those things, but there's very few places where you can get inundated with chiropractic and immersed in chiropractic. And Mile High is one of those few places. And so I encourage you that you make a pilgrimage, to the mountaintop, rise up 5,280 feet, come to Mile High, make a vacation out of it. August is a great place to be, and do it before December 31st so you can save money. I don't like paying more for things. Well, why wait till people pay double at the door. I'm like, why would you do that? That's just dumb, So,
Daniel, why don't we do this, Daniel? The next 3 people to sign up for Mile High, I'll send them a free copy of 33.
There you go. That's perfect. I love it. Well, that's
okay.
Do that.
Just get me their name and the address. Get me their name and the address, and they're going to get a free copy of 33.
Awesome. We'll take care of that. I love it. We'll put that up. So, thank you for taking the time being on the podcast. If you are listening to this episode, subscribe so you get every episode in iTunes, okay? And grab David's book from Amazon, and we'll see you all August 16th to 19th in the Mile High City. And peace out. Keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Like our page on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Mile High Chiro.